Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavibirititam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatatam Bhuvinirnantiye Burida Janaha. The nectar of your words, the praise of poet seers, elixir to parched souls, delight to listening ears, cleanser of all sins, is great and glorious. They who spread it far and wide on earth are most generous. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good evening, friends. We are continuing with our study of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. For those that are following along, we are on page 184, and the date is Friday, March 9th, 1883. About 9 o'clock in the morning, the master was seated in his room with Rakal M. and a few other devotees. It was the day of the new moon. As usual with him on such days, Sri Ramakrishna entered again and again into communion with the Divine Mother. He said to the devotees, God alone exists, and all else is unreal. The Divine Mother has kept all deluded by her Maya. Look at men. Most of them are entangled in worldliness. They suffer so much, but still they have the same attachment to lust and gold. The camel eats thorny shrubs, and blood gushes from its mouth. Still it will eat thorns. While suffering pain at the time of delivery, a woman says, I shall never go to my husband again. But afterwards she forgets. The truth is that no one seeks God. There are people who eat the prickly leaves of the pineapple and not the fruit. Well, this is describing our state of mind. Otherwise, once we experience the pain of the world, we would give up and renounce it all at once, and thus realize God. But no, we live on for many years and go through the same suffering again and again. A little joy now and then makes us forget that suffering, and then we think, oh, maybe the next time things will be more joyful. And so life continues. Now, amongst these people, a devotee is asking, but sir, why has God put us in the world? And it seems that it is M asking this question, but he's, in the book here, he's only mentioned himself as a devotee. Now the Master continues, he says, the world is the field of action. Through action, one acquires knowledge. The Guru instructs the disciple to perform certain works and refrain from others. Again, he advises the pupil to perform action without desiring the results. So it's not just the Guru instructing the disciple. The Guru is not just making up any old ideas. These are all the teachings within all the scriptures. And he's passing them on to the disciple after understanding the nature of that particular disciple and what his or her needs are to progress spiritually. So once the Guru understands the nature of that disciple, then according to those needs, he instructs the disciple to how to perform certain works and what they should refrain from. So in the scriptures, those would be the moral and ethical disciplines. Some the disciple might be more advanced in, but not in others, and needs to pay more attention to those that need more attention. And he says, again, he advises the pupil to perform action without desiring the result. So now this is the premise behind karma yoga, how to work unselfishly. And then he says, but the impurity of the mind is destroyed through the performance of duty. It is like getting rid of a disease by means of medicine under the instruction of a competent physician. As the disciple or aspirant wants to does their practices, follows the instructions of their guru and the scriptures, that helps purify their mind. They gain control over their passions. They will study. They will also get control over their desires, worldly desires. Desire God more. They will develop a love for God. And in that process, they will acquire a deeper sense of knowledge. Just as when you concentrate on some subject, the more you concentrate on it and you have love for that subject, more knowledge about that subject gets revealed to you. That's how you get a deeper understanding of the nature of this world, and also your own inner nature. And in that process, various aspects of God get revealed to you. You'll start to realize, oh, God is not just something external in the shrine, some image. God has some existence within me. So you start to think, well, what is my real nature? What is the nature of all beings? What is our relationship to God? And that gives you knowledge about God. If you applying the same in the world, you would get a deeper knowledge of your particular subject, whether it be music, sciences, or just any aspect of worldly knowledge. So as one learns to control and restrain one's passions, less energy is going into selfish achievements, but more energy goes into the pursuit of knowledge. So some people sometimes ask, well, what is the purpose of life? Well, Swami Nikhilananda would always say, the purpose of life is to realize God. But you could also say, the purpose of life is to acquire knowledge. The knowledge of God, knowledge of yourself, what is the relationship between God and yourself, and that unveils unto you knowledge that is beyond just the physical world, into the spiritual realm. So the impurity of the mind is destroyed through the performance of duty. This is duty performed without desiring the result, and duty performed as a service to God, or service to humanity, by seeing God in all beings. And then he says, it is like getting rid of a disease by means of medicine under the instruction of a competent physician. Your guru is the competent physician. He's providing you the medication in the forms of knowledge and helping you go through all the different obstacles that one may experience through their spiritual practices. Now Swami Nikhilananda is asking the question, why doesn't God free us from the world? And he says, he will free us when the disease is cured. When our disease of wanting to acquire worldly desires, our disease of wanting to experience the pleasures of the world, and to be in the world, but yet that is only partial knowledge. Full knowledge is when we experience God. And only then will the disease be cured. He will liberate us from the world when we are through with the enjoyment of lust and gold. Once a man registers his name in the hospital, he cannot run away. Well, that might be different today, but in those days, you cannot leave unless you are cured. The doctor will not let you go unless the illness is completely cured. A doctor that cares about you. So, and then just then a man has entered the room and said that a high tide was coming in the Ganges. And the master and the devotees ran to the Panchavati to go see it. One of the characteristics of the river Ganges, especially in that part of the river, is when the tide comes in, the river flows the opposite direction. You used to see things flowing down the river Ganga, but when the tide comes in from the ocean, it raises the water up also in the river. And you'll suddenly see that rushing water, everything goes in the opposite direction, and the boats will get tossed about by the rush of the waves. So this is, whenever this happens, it becomes a curious sight. And so everybody was excited, just wanted to go see what's going to happen next. So the master and the devotees ran to the Panchavati to see it. At the sight of a boat being tossed by the tide, Sri Ramakrishna exclaimed, "Look, look, I hope nothing happens to it." Because the waves are coming and the boatman may not be able to direct the boat quickly enough, boats can flip over. And so everybody wants to see how everyone in that river adjusts to it, because there'll be many boats out there. Many of them trying to just cross the Ganga, or fishing, or carrying building materials. So now the master is curious, and he asks them to explain the cause of the tide. So M is drawing on the ground the figures of the sun, the moon, and the earth, and then tries to explain gravitation, ebb tide, flood tide, new moon, full moon, eclipse, and so forth. And the master says to M, "Stop it, I can't follow you. It makes me dizzy. My head is aching." Well, how can they know of things so far off? So now, Swami Nikhilananda has mentioned earlier that speaking about, if you want to acquire the knowledge of God, Brahman, you have to go through all these spiritual disciplines. But when you throw at him all worldly knowledge, he gets totally confused and frustrated and says, "No, it hurts my head." So that kind of worldly knowledge, we are really excited to learn about. We want all the details, our sense of curiosity about the universe, how it works. That's what attracts us. But spiritual life, not so much. For Swami Ramakrishna, it was the opposite. He saw the real nature behind all of this. These minute details seemed too complicated to grasp and unimportant. But yet his curiosity was sparked by seeing an unnatural occurrence. And he thought he could understand the explanation. Perhaps M should have given a more supplied a simpler answer, but maybe he was showing his eruditeness to the master and to the other devotees there, but that answer was too detailed for someone like the master to understand. I don't know if it's so much that that was too difficult for him to understand, but it would have meant for him to bring his mind down to a level that he did not want to bring his mind down to that level of worldly understanding, because he understood that the world has many intricacies involved. And once you start on down that road, it's just one thing leading to another, just as he starts trying to explain gravitation, ebb tide, flood tide, new moon, full moon, eclipse, how all of that works together. That's a textbook. So the master says to M, "Stop it. I can't follow you. It makes me dizzy. My head is aching." "Well, how can they know of things so far off?" "You see, during my childhood, I could paint well, but arithmetic would make my head spin. I couldn't learn simple arithmetic." All this, trying to understand the logistics of the world, that seemed to him, I guess he sensed some sense of irrationality, trying to understand the intricacies and logistics of how the world worked. But to him, God was simpler. You follow these practices, you make the mind pure, and God was a simple one. And in him, all of this is contained. And if God wants to know these things, he will instruct you. He will make you able to understand these things. But unfortunately, God did not give Sri Ramakrishna the desire to understand all these things. So Sri Ramakrishna returned to his room with the devotees. Looking at a picture of Yashoda on the wall, he said, "It is not well done. She looks like a garland seller." It's not uncommon that on the way toward temples, you'll see garland sellers and other religious items being sold as people walk toward a temple for them to purchase and make an offering in the temple. Now remember that a garland seller has been sitting there by the side of the lane, the side of the street, all day in the hot sun, and is tired and exhausted. And whoever painted Yashoda made Yashoda look like she was tired and exhausted, and that did not inspire the feelings of the motherly love that Yashoda had for Krishna in that particular picture. So that's why he said he was not pleased with how well he said that picture was not well done. Yashoda did not look, although mothers do look tired, taking care of anyone, especially a baby Krishna, but that is not the image he would have wanted to see in the mother of Lord Krishna. It should be more noble looking, more awake, more alive, instead of, in this case, like a garland seller, a tired woman. So the master enjoyed a nap after his noon meal. Adhar and other devotees gradually gathered. This was Adhar's first visit. He was a deputy magistrate and about 30 years old. Adhar to the master, "Sir, I have a question to ask. Is it good to sacrifice animals before the deity? It certainly involves killing." Master, the Shastras, or the scriptures, prescribes sacrifice on special occasions. Such sacrifice is not harmful. Take, for instance, the sacrifice of a goat on the 8th day of the moon or new moon. This idea of sacrifice of an animal is not there for everyone. It's there for those that are that would benefit from such a worship. For those that have a sense of animality, the sacrificing of a goat or animal is a symbol of one's giving up or killing one's animality before offering their love and their devotion to God. So for those that feel that they have animality, lust, all those very worldly attachments, attending a sacrifice where one has to think of the killing as giving up one's animality, in other words, purifying the mind through this method, then Sri Ramakrishna says that such sacrifice is not harmful. But now he says, "I am now in such a state of mind that I cannot watch a sacrifice." Why? Sri Ramakrishna is devoid of this animality that is within most worldly people. And so for him, seeing a killing, he's identifying with that, with all life. He's not just self-conscious like most of us are. He is worldly conscious. He's conscious of all beings, the divinity in all beings, the divinity within every creature, including that creature being sacrificed. So to him, he feels that suffering, so he cannot bear to watch. I cannot watch a sacrifice. Also, I cannot eat meat offered to the Divine Mother. Therefore, I first touch my finger to it, then to my head, lest she should be angry with me. So, it is a custom in India to show respect that one touches the feet of a respectable person, and then with that same hand touches their forehead or their head. So Sri Ramakrishna is doing the same thing. He's touching the feet of the Divine Mother by touching that meat, and then touches his own forehead as a sign of showing respect in case the Divine Mother, should the Divine Mother be angry with him. So even though he may not eat the meat, but he's not saying that this, he's not banning this from society, he's still respecting this tradition because it is helpful to some people. Sri Ramakrishna doesn't need it, but others will benefit through this. So by him acknowledging that he's not eating the meat, but he acknowledges that this is still spiritually beneficial to some, he is still acknowledging the tradition. He's not come to destroy tradition. He's come to just to fulfill the tradition, give it a more modern turn, explain what the tradition means so that it can be beneficial to those spiritual aspirants that are following that tradition. Now he continues, again, in a certain state of mind, I see God in all beings, even in an ant. At that time, if I see a living being die, I find consolation in the thought that it is the death of the body, the soul being beyond life and death. So depending on what his state of mind is at one time or the other, he may feel that he will feel the pain and suffering of that being put to death. But at other times, he will tell his brother disciples, or a cockroach, take it outside and kill it. So his state of mind is different. He won't feel the suffering of that cockroach outside, but in certain cases, he becomes ultra-sensitive, ultra-connected with life. And now he's speaking toward Adhar. He says, one should not reason too much. It is enough if one, okay, so Adhar had previously asked, is it good to sacrifice animals before the deity? It certainly involves killing. So he's been describing his attitude toward sacrifice, and now he's continuing the conversation. He says, one should not reason too much. It is enough if one loves the lotus feet of the mother. Too much reasoning throws the mind into confusion. You get clear water if you drink from the surface of a pool. Put your hand deeper and stir the water, and it becomes muddy. So this is probably in relation to once you start realizing, once you want to understand the world, yeah, so once you stir things up, it's just one thing leading to another. And that clear water, that perfection, that God that you are worshiping, suddenly becomes all involved. And then you start having to understand Maya and its involvement, and you become more aware of that, and then you lose sight of God. So therefore, pray to God with devotion. So Sri Ramakrishna says, keep it simple. Too much reasoning throws the mind into confusion. So what kind of reason is he talking about? Because, yeah, you can reason about things of this world, but when we are introspecting, when we are looking within and trying to work our way towards spiritual improvement, we have to apply reasoning. So there is a type of reasoning with which one acquires knowledge, worldly knowledge. That is the kind of reasoning that Sri Ramakrishna is talking to Uddhar about. One should not reason too much. And that includes why are people sacrificing this? And that is that real, there must be something beyond that, because there are probably many intricacies involved in all the different tantric rituals, sacrifice of animals being one of them. And you can try to understand and give explanations for all of them, but the real thing is learn how to love God. And if God wants you, He will provide you all the worldly knowledge you want, but realize God first. So pray to God for devotion. And he continues, behind Dhruva's devotion, there was desire. He practiced austerities to gain his father's kingdom, but Prahlada's love for God was motiveless, a love that sought no return. So now M is asking the question, but how can one realize God? And the Master says, through that kind of love, that kind of motiveless love. Don't try to love God because you want this or that. If you want this or that, that usually means some kind of worldly thing. But love of God for the sake of loving God, for love itself, for the sake of love itself. But he says, but one must force one's demand on God. One should be able to say, O God, wilt thou not reveal thyself to me? I shall cut my throat with a knife. This is the tamas of bhakti. Now, one must have such conviction that one's life will feel worthless without the love of God, to the point where one would be willing to take one's life in order to realize God. But most of us will never have that kind of conviction, and the result would be we'll end up probably killing ourselves, but then perhaps not. Because even Sri Ramakrishna, in front of the Divine Mother in the temple, said to the Divine Mother, he took one of the weapons and said, I will slit my throat if you don't reveal yourself. And before he could do anything, the Divine Mother revealed herself to him. So there are many different, now that was the only desire he had. When one has the desire for God and only God, then one will do anything and everything to acquire that love of God. In his case, he did not even have a tinge of love for worldliness. But most of us are all on the fence. There's still something in worldly life that we still want to enjoy and experience. And what we do, our love for God is something we do on the side, but we have to kind of reverse that. So this is the tamas of bhakti. So this is an extreme, this is the extreme, this is extreme love, extreme bhakti. For the rest of us, we would have to resort to either proper reasoning about our love of God and about our directing our love through selfless service or through knowledge and through love and devotion, through ritual and spiritual practices. Devotee, can one see God? Now these are all kind of questions that M asked already way back when he first met Ramakrishna. So he's looking for affirmation, and perhaps he's also asking these questions for the benefit of the new people that have just arrived, the new devotees. So he's asking, can one see God? Ramakrishna says, yes, surely. One can see both aspects of God, God with form and without form. One can see God with form, the embodiment of spirit. Again, God can be directly perceived in a man with a tangible form. Seeing an incarnation of God is the same as seeing God himself. God is born on earth as man in every age. Yes, surely, one can see both aspects of God, God with form and without form. Often Ramakrishna will ask a devotee, well, what form of God appeals to you? And some would say, well, I worship the God in the form of Krishna or Rama. Or some would say, well, I don't believe that God has form. I don't want to worship God in form. I believe God is formless. So God will reveal himself in whatever form that devotee most attracts that devotee. But people always thought that God is either one or the other. But Ramakrishna is saying, no, God is both. And in some parts of the gospel, even says that God is beyond both. Whatever that is. But from our point of view, trying to describe God with form and then without form, but then there might be other ways of because God is infinite. You cannot just pin him down to a few finite words and trying to explain it. That's how it's explained to us. But what the real nature of God is something even beyond that. And then he says that God can be directly perceived in a man with a tangible form. Seeing an incarnation of God is the same as seeing God himself. Whether you worship God as Krishna or Rama, many believe that Ramakrishna is a divine incarnation, but he is not going to say that outright. That is for the devotee to try to understand or think about, but he's not making any claim here. But he is reaffirming in the scriptures that God is born on earth as man in every age. And in the Bhagavad Gita, even Sri Krishna reassures Arjuna that whenever there is decline in humanity, God will be born forth and will reestablish Dharma, reestablish righteousness. So that concludes that day. And with that, the class concludes also. If there are any questions, there happens to be a question online. I'll take that right now. Once, Sri Ramakrishna asked to kill a mosquito, as M thought killing was not right. Contrary, Ramakrishna mentions killing oneself as tamas of bhakti. tamas is usually considered not good. So one of the natures of tamas is often it's described as laziness, but it also is described as doing actions which are against the scriptures, such as killing. But it is, or doing wrong action. But in the case of when you're giving the three gunas a spiritual bent, you're not killing others. You're killing the ego within yourself. You're not really killing the body, because at that point, your mind is so wants to be in touch with God and experience God that you do not care of the body. The body you only care about when your ego is there. So what you're killing is not the body, you're killing the ego. Now the thing is that if you lose all sense of ego and you try to strike yourself with a knife, what do you think will happen? The body will fall unconscious because it has lost all sense of body consciousness, all sense of ego-ness. So although the action looks like you are killing, but in fact, at that point, your desire to see God is so intense that you are not even able, your body is not able to complete the action. So you have started the action, but you're incapable of completing it. So, yeah, you may say that, okay, tamas is not good, but you're giving, every spiritual discipline has both a knowledge aspect to it, a reason why you perform that action, such as you got the three gunas, you've got the sattva version of love, you've got the rajasic form of love, and you've got the tamasic form of love. So Swami Krishna has mentioned in the gospel that when you practice the tamasic form of love, you are demanding God to give you love and devotion, even to the point of killing and plundering, and just the same attitude that a gangster might have. So you're threatening God, but your actions are directed toward God, not to human beings. But you really direct your actions toward your inner self, your own mind. So you're directing all those actions, of those guna actions, toward your own mind, to yourself. If there are no other questions, I will. Another question? Okay. Now we have some announcements. Tomorrow evening at 7 p.m., Swami Brahmatmananda will be continuing with his class on the Gospel of the Holy Mother. This is an online class. The link was given to those that have signed up for notifications in the email that we send out once a week. Tomorrow morning, Swami Satyamananda will be traveling to Berkeley. So there's no Friday class this week. That will resume the following week. And this Sunday, Swami Brahmatmananda will be giving the talk because Swami Satyamananda won't be returning until the following week. So the talk on Sunday will be Karma Yoga for the West, given by Swami Brahmatmananda. And then that same evening at 7 p.m., we will have Ramnam here in the chapel. All these events are live and also live streamed. So you are all welcome to attend those events. So I will conclude with a chant. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampa Ritavigraham Vai Ishavataram Paramesamidhyam Tvam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. We salute that Ramakrishna who is without blemish, eternal, and infinite in forms, who has assumed human form out of compassion for the devotees, who is God incarnate, the Supreme Lord, and who is most worshipful. Om peace, peace, peace to all beings.